The last few days have been full of buzz around the Los Angeles Lakers and their pursuit of a strong two-way wing, and the name that keeps coming up is Andrew Wiggins. All off-season long, the rumor mill has circled back to him, and now it seems the front office is really weighing whether this is the type of move that can elevate the roster. When you look at Wiggins, it makes sense why he is being discussed so often. He is a proven player, he has championship experience, and, at his best, he is exactly the type of versatile defender and scorer the Lakers have been searching for. If the organization could actually pull it off without overpaying, that might end up being one of the most impactful trades of the year. The question, though, is what kind of price tag will be attached to Wiggins and whether he is the only realistic option. There are a handful of mid-tier players who may not have the same ceiling, but could still fill the void that the Lakers are trying to address. Someone like Matisse Thybulle, for example, does not have the offensive polish of Wiggins, but his defense and energy would still go a long way. Even internally, guys like Jared Vanderbilt or maybe even Jake LaRavia could take a step forward and help stabilize that forward rotation. If that were to happen, the Lakers might not feel pressure to go all in for Wiggins, or at least they could approach any deal with more leverage. That leverage is important because Wiggins is not a cheap contract. Next season alone, he is owed more than $30 million. And that is the type of number that makes front offices hesitate unless they are fully convinced the player is a game changer. The encouraging part is that the Lakers seem willing to take on longer-term salary if it makes sense. They are not blindly chasing contracts, but if the right two-way wing becomes available, they are prepared to be aggressive. That says a lot about where the team's mindset is right now. Rob Pelinka has been vocal about the expectation being a championship, and with LeBron James still playing at a high level and Luka Doncic now locked in long-term, the window is open. That means the front office cannot afford to be timid. Still, there's a balance to strike. You do not want to see the Lakers panic and settle, and you also do not want to see them hold out endlessly for Wiggins while other solid opportunities pass them by. If a deal for a player like Thybulle could be done now without giving up picks or core assets, that may be the smarter move in the short term. He might not raise the ceiling as high as Wiggins would, but he would still strengthen the rotation and keep the team flexible for more moves later in the season. Sometimes the incremental upgrades stack up and end up having a bigger impact than one big swing. The bigger picture is that Wiggins is the headline name today, but he might not be the only realistic option as the season develops. The trade market always produces unexpected names, and there is always a chance that someone like Miles Bridges or R.J. Barrett could suddenly be available. Bridges has the kind of two-way talent and size to fit perfectly alongside the Lakers stars, while Barrett is younger and inconsistent, but could blossom in the right environment. He may not be at Wiggins' level right now, but he has shown flashes that suggest he could be not too far off. This is why patience matters. The Lakers need to get into training camp, see how the roster gels, and figure out which of their current players can really fill bigger roles. Maybe Vanderbilt looks ready to take a leap. Maybe Rui Hachimura shows he can lock down the starting small forward spot more consistently. If that happens, then the urgency for Wiggins decreases, and the Lakers can afford to wait for a more favorable trade scenario. It is one thing to chase a player out of need, which usually leads to overpaying. It is another thing entirely to pursue a player out of want, which gives you far more negotiating power. The tricky part with Wiggins is that the Warriors are not just going to give him away. They may eventually look to shed salary, but they will want real value back, and they know other teams will ask the same questions the Lakers are asking. Is Wiggins worth the price both in assets and in salary? If his play this season shows he can be the consistent two-way threat again, the demand for him will grow, and so will the cost. On the other hand, if he struggles or if other forwards around the league become available, then the Lakers could have the leverage to swoop in with a reasonable offer. Timing is everything. For now, it feels like the Lakers are approaching this the right way. They are aggressive, but not desperate. They understand the roster still needs another two-way presence on the wing, but they are not locking themselves into one name. They are keeping their eyes open to all possibilities, from the bigger targets like Wiggins or Bridges to the more modest upgrades like Thybulle or Caleb Martin. That flexibility is key because the season is long and opportunities will pop up closer to the trade deadline that nobody is even talking about today. The bottom line is that Andrew Wiggins might be the best ceiling raiser currently available, but he is not the only path to improvement. The Lakers could find themselves better off making smaller moves now and saving bigger swings for later, especially if the asking price for Wiggins remains high. It is a chess game, and the Lakers are in a good position if they stay patient and let the board open up. When you look deeper into the situation, what really matters is how the Lakers decide to value the pieces they currently have compared to what they could potentially get back in a trade. One of the biggest concerns with a deal for Andrew Wiggins is that it could easily turn into an overpay if the Lakers are not careful. That is not to say Wiggins is not worth investing in, but timing is everything. If you make that move too early before seeing how players like Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, or even Gabe Vincent are fitting into the rotation, then you risk losing assets you might not have needed to move at all. The Lakers have to balance the urge to be aggressive with the discipline to wait until the picture becomes clearer. Overpaying in the right context is something that can be justified. We have seen teams give up significant packages when they believe that one specific piece can push them over the top. The Lakers themselves almost landed Mark Williams, and while many admitted it would have been an overpay, there was also an understanding that the circumstances made sense. He could have been the missing center that elevated the roster to championship level. But that situation is different from Wiggins right now. The Lakers do not have a desperate hole at small forward. They have options, even if none of them are perfect. That difference between need and want changes everything in terms of negotiating power and urgency. This is why the Lakers must be smart about not letting themselves get boxed into one option. Wiggins is the name everyone is throwing around because he is the most obvious one, but that does not mean he is the only path. There are plenty of wings across the league who could come a lower cost and still provide exactly the skill set the Lakers are looking for. Players like Caleb Martin, Terrence Mann, or Haywood Highsmith may not have the same star recognition, but all of them bring defense, energy, and the ability to space the floor enough to play alongside stars. Those types of players are often overlooked until suddenly one of them is the exact kind of glue piece that helps a contender make a run. The Lakers' challenge is not just finding the right player, but finding him at the right value. Other teams around the league know how badly Los Angeles wants a two-way wing, and the minute that desperation shows, the asking prices rise. That is the nature of the market. When Dallas wanted to get off a contract, they had to waive a player and eat the money because no one was willing to bail them out without extracting a cost. When Miami looked to shed salary, the response was the same. You want our help? You have to pay for it. The Lakers are going to face those exact pressures if they rush into deals. That is why patience and timing are such crucial parts of the front office's strategy right now. The trade deadline is where things get really interesting. That is when teams who thought they could contend realize they cannot, and suddenly players become available that were never on the table in October or November. That is when a player like Wiggins might actually become more affordable, not because he is less talented, but because the Warriors may be more motivated to clear salary and reset their books. It is also when someone completely unexpected could hit the market, and that is where the Lakers need to keep their flexibility. If they blow their best assets too early, they might miss out on the player who actually fits the roster perfectly later in the season. Still, patience cannot turn into paralysis. If a deal comes along for a wing who fits the role and the price is reasonable, then the Lakers should not hesitate. Even if it is not the headline name like Wiggins or Bridges, a solid addition now could set the tone for the season and ease the pressure later. It also gives the coaching staff time to integrate the new piece and figure out rotations well before the playoffs arrive. Sometimes making the smaller move now and leaving the door open for another trade at the deadline ends up being the most effective strategy. The reality is that the Lakers have built a roster that is good enough to compete as is, but they know they are one or two smart moves away from being great. They're not in the desperate position of needing to patch glaring holes just to stay afloat. They have LeBron James, they have Luka Doncic, and they have a supporting cast that can keep them competitive every night. That gives them the luxury of waiting, watching how the season unfolds, and then striking when the market is in their favor. It is a rare advantage, and it is one they should not waste. When you think about Wiggins specifically, it is easy to see both sides. On one hand, he is exactly the type of player the Lakers want in their starting lineup. Someone who could defend multiple positions, hit threes, and step up in big moments like he did in the Warriors' championship run. On the other hand, he comes with a massive contract, questions about consistency, and the possibility that the price and assets could be higher than it should be. If he shows out early in the season and looks like the finals version of himself, then yes, his value goes up. But if he looks more like the inconsistent version we have seen at times, then the Lakers would be wise to wait for a more reasonable deal. All of this comes back to the same point. The Lakers cannot allow themselves to be held hostage by one player or one name. Wiggins may be the splashy option, but there are dozens of quality wings around the league who can defend, space the floor, and contribute to winning basketball. Finding the right one is about timing, price, and fit. The Lakers have the pieces to make something happen, but their strength is that they do not have to act from desperation. That gives them the power to be selective, and in the long run, that is how championships are won. Not just by grabbing talent, but by grabbing the right talent at the right time. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, in a move that has sent shockwaves through the NBA, whispers are circulating that Isaiah Collier has officially parted ways with the Utah Jazz and is set to ink a 3-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. Sources close to the situation, speaking on the condition of anonymity, suggest that this potential signing could reshape the Lakers' roster dynamics and signal a new era in Los Angeles. The buzz began early this morning when insiders hinted at behind-the-scenes negotiations that had been quietly progressing for weeks. Collier, known for his explosive playmaking and defensive versatility, has been one of the league's most talked-about young talents, and the idea of him donning the iconic purple and gold is enough to stir excitement among Lakers fans and nervousness in rival front offices. While Utah Jazz officials have yet to comment publicly, murmurs from league insiders indicate that the Jazz were open to exploring trade options for Collier, perhaps aiming to recalibrate their roster and leverage his value in future deals. For Los Angeles, however, the potential acquisition is about more than just talent. It's about sending a message. The Lakers, eager to reclaim dominance in the Western Conference, seem determined to surround their core stars with versatile, dynamic players capable of altering the course of playoff series. Social media erupted as the news began to leak, with fans speculating on how Collier's arrival could affect team chemistry and on-court strategies. Analysts are already debating whether the Lakers will shift toward a more fast-paced, high-pressure style, taking full advantage of Collier's strengths in transition and perimeter defense. Meanwhile, mock rosters and highlight reels have been circulating online, illustrating the tantalizing potential of a Collier-led Lakers squad. While nothing is officially confirmed yet, the energy surrounding this rumored move is palpable. If it comes to fruition, the Lakers may have just made a statement to the entire league, that they're not just rebuilding, but aggressively positioning themselves to compete at the highest level. Isaiah Collier in purple and gold could very well be the start of something big, and fans everywhere are already holding their breath. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.